All right, welcome back in. Just another football show.
One more of these.
One more.
And then the big one of these.
Then the big one.
And then no more of these until next year.
Yeah, but we got two of our regulars on. We got the man, the myth, the legend, Matt back talking about his Bills.
Is that a tag for his?
He's the man, the myth on Twitter, yeah.
Let's go, Buffalo.
And then our Chiefs fan who was with us all last offseason, in Casey's good luck charm.
My good luck charm.
He was the postseason fan the season before that, too. So he's 500 right now.
He brings you a Super Bowl. He's above 500. So, but he's Casey's good luck charm.
That's not how stats work.
That's 100% how football stats work.
You win one, you don't win one.
Wins.
Yeah.
It's one more. It's only one loss.
I know, but I heard once that Super Bowls don't matter. So
Don't matter for head coach.
It was an AFC championship game that they lost, not a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter on the head coach resume. Who cares, right? All the dumb head coaches that have one Super Bowl ring. Andy Reid, though, is not one of them. He only has one now, but he'll get there.
I sincerely hope so.
Last time he went 3 in a row, didn't work out as good.
Only got to do
might
it.
Go this time.
Only got to do
yeah,
it.
only got to do it. There was a fun.
Only got to do it twice.
Yeah,
NFC and AFC.
There was a really fun Twitter thing I was reading earlier about Philly fans crying in their cheesesteaks about missing Andy Reid, and like, well, maybe you shouldn't have fucking fired the guy.
Yeah. Andy Reid, though, has shown that he has the cojones to take it. We'll ask Frenchie about that. Frenchie, big Chiefs fan, knows what he's talking about here. So
you know that episode of South Park when Randy blows his balls
first
and pushes it in the wheelbarrow? That was Andy Reid.
So many.
And he doesn't. He's just a nice guy.
Such a nice guy.
He's not swinging it around when he's just doing his interviews and giving out his mac and cheese recipe. No.
Does he have a mac and cheese recipe?
Yeah, he does.
He looks like a guy that would have a good mac and cheese.
5 cheeses. I'll send it to you.
Oh, 5 cheese mac and cheese.
Yeah. He gave it to Charles McDonald.
That's almost too many cheese. You know what?
No,
you
it's
see
the right amount of cheese.
You see 5 cheeses, but you don't see like more noodles.
Yeah.
Here's my 3 noodle mac and cheese.
Well, the shape is important.
Yeah.
But we'll see if Andy's got some balls up his sleeve. I'm mixing metaphors there.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Leg sleeve.
Yeah, we'll see
it's
if
hot.
We'll
They're
see what
hanging.
He's got hanging up his sleeve.
They're dangling down there
this week when we talk to Frenchie, and we'll see if Matt is scared of it.
I sincerely doubt it. Matt's come in with quite the swagger every episode. We've talked to him thus far.
I love that.
I expect nothing to change.
At a certain point, it's an undeserved swagger, but
swagger
earning it.
You don't have to earn swagger.
Earning it at this point.
You just gotta have swagger.
Just gotta have it. All right,
it's called false bravado.
I'm gonna shift the responsibilities, Jam. I'm gonna have to get Matt on the line.
Yeah, I had a feeling. All right, and I have to do it this week because Casey absolutely refuses as he stares from across the table with the scowl on his face. I get to welcome back on our Buffalo Bills fan, Bills backer. Remember, Matt, how you doing, buddy? Your team is 1 game away.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
Oh my goodness, it is a good time to be a Buffalo Bills fan. It is a good time to be a fan of the underdog. It is a bad time to be an independent neurologist in Kansas City.
Ooh, yeah, he's
unaffiliated.
Unaffiliated, independent. We'll get into it.
Yeah, he's looking elsewhere. Matt, I do want to say that it's a good time to be a Bills fan. It's also a good time to be pretty, good friends with a Bills fan. As I'm watching this game go down, full disclosure, I had been drinking since like 1 in the afternoon, so I was feeling pretty good.
Good man.
But I was trying to remember all of the, shout lyrics that go along with like the Buffalo. Really, it was just me running around.
Oh, I can see this picture now.
Yeah, hey, and then like "Let's go Buffalo," and that's all I can remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That's all you need.
Yeah, but then I saw the video of you doing it at the keg stand this weekend, and I was just, so amazing. One of the best times that I've had as a fan. But I will tell you, and I mentioned it to KC, is he's got this whole thing about like watching his team play in championship games with fans of other teams. I, for one, would love to be there this weekend, but I'm sitting it out because I've been to 1 game there in a playoff game, and it didn't work out so good for Buffalo. So by me taking an absence this week, I'm trying to, cure that a little bit.
If I may, I have lived and died on sports superstitions the last 30 plus years of my life. Every single one of them has been broken this year, and we keep winning.
Well, there you go.
So I would love to welcome you to the keg stand. The tailgate starts at 1. Come on out. You can't jinx Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. You can't jinx Teron Johnson and Trey White. You can't jinx the best punter in the league, Corey Bojorquez. You can't.
That is those are some bold promises. Unjinxable, he says. We might have to
unjinxable, matchup proof, whatever you want to call it.
We might have to make this happen this weekend. Getting into this game before we go there too far, sort of. I looked at it as sort of a dominant performance against Baltimore. Ryan and KC kind of looked well. They didn't necessarily look great throughout it offensively. They had a pick 6 in there that kind of played into it as well. Buffalo throughout the postseason hasn't been that surefire 42, 45 points a game team at this point. Are you at all worried about that coming into what could be a shootout score for score against Kansas City?
I'm not, and only because our defense is entirely different when Matt Milano, one of our best linebackers, our outside linebacker, is on the field. The Bills, I'll tell you this stat: the Bills this season, when he doesn't play, are 0-3. When he does play, we're 15-0, and he is fully healthy, fine as wine, coming into this game. He was missing from the Titans game, from the Chiefs game, and from the Arizona game. And having him back is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, you mentioned that Chiefs game, and it lends nicely to the next question. This is a matchup that we've seen before. We saw it, way back when. It feels like a lifetime ago, back in October.
Back when COVID had us scared that we wouldn't get through the season.
Yeah. This was one of the games that got juggled around. Ends up being played on a Monday night, 5 o'clock, whatever. And it was a game that the Chiefs seemed to have won handily. How do you feel about, I guess, this rematch now, considering that game back from October?
Well, let's look at that game. Statistically, Patrick Mahomes had what, for him is a pretty mediocre game. He threw for less than 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nothing to sneeze at, for the majority of NFL quarterbacks, but nothing Mahomes like. Where we got beaten a lot in that game was just from the run game gashing us. We sold out. We absolutely sold out to stop the run. And we got burned by Clyde Edwards-Helaire, one of the best running backs in the league. But I think that with how the Bills have been playing recently, especially that Bills defense, it's really going to make a big difference. Going back, this ties back into what I was just saying with Matt Milano. Rushing yards a game when he doesn't play, we give up 138.3. When he does play, we only give up 108.1. So there's a significant difference with him on the field. So I'm not worried about that. If anything, I'm worried at all about just the being able to, put up points. We haven't been doing that a ton lately, but it's also not like we haven't been able to move the ball. You look at how we've been able to, matriculate the ball up and down the field with toe tap catches by Gabe Davis against the Colts, and then John Brown this past week. Stephon Diggs now holds the NFL record for the most games in a single season with 6+ catches. He's had 100+ yards in both of our playoff games. And between their third down defense and their red zone defense, the Chiefs aren't hot. And we have the best third down the best third down offense in the league. So I think we'll be able to stay on the field. I think we'll really be able to sustain some drives, but I think it's going to be some clever scheming from Brian Daboll and the coaching staff.
Yeah, a guy who decided that he's probably going to stick around for the Bills too, much to your chagrin, I'm sure. Because we were just talking about that on the old Twitter. So it looks like you lucked out there. But that last game too, that last game against the Kansas City Chiefs, we saw Josh Allen have one of his worst games of the year, 122 through the air, threw an interception in that one. How do you feel about him? I know obviously he's come a long way since then, so probably not big worries there, but the Chiefs were able to shut him down.
They were, and that was one of 4 games coming out of Oakland that Josh Allen was playing injured. He hurt his shoulder right before halftime against Oakland. And I believe it was Matt Hasselbach on ESPN Sunday Morning said that he had a similar injury, and it really took about 3, 4, 5 weeks before he felt like himself again, before he could really play like himself. So I do think that was part of it. Also, I think the Chiefs just had a great game plan coming into that game. But like you've alluded to, this is a very different team. Like I know it's the same season, but like it feels so long ago. It's almost like we're comparing like, what happened in like 2016 when we played or anything like that. Like it was so long ago. So I'm not worried about it. I think especially what we've seen the last 2 games is our coaching staff has schemed beautifully, especially on defense, but we've been able to move the ball. We've been able to get some things going on offense as well from time to time. The Ravens were a heck of a task, and the Colts were no slouch either, but I don't think the Chiefs defense is really comparable to those 2 defenses. Those are 2 of the premier defenses in the league. And the Chiefs, obviously their game plan isn't as much defense as it is just we're going to outscore you.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Kansas City sort of has to. And I feel at times you watch them play and they sort of rely on that, knowing that they can almost score at a whim as far as their game plan goes. Like maybe that is their defense. They say a good offense is a good defense. Well, maybe a good defense is a great offense. I haven't seen the spread yet coming into this game, but I would imagine that Kansas City's probably favored by 3. Casey says he throws his fingers up at home.
Yep.
One thing I found interesting in the Cleveland game is Cleveland won the toss and then elected to defer.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo doesn't do that, right? If Buffalo wins the toss, they start with the ball to sort of get that momentum on their side right at the gate. At least I think. What is your thought on that? What does Buffalo do in that situation?
I'm trying to think, man, because that's the thing. Most of the time I just come in and I say, okay, who's kicking off? So I'm not sure how we've been doing on coin tosses this year, but I do think it would be important to get that offensive momentum rolling to, just kind of get things started. But it's weird that you guys asked me for a stat that I don't know, but here we are.
I got
Playoffs are wild.
And the Bills, the last couple of weeks, have been off to a little bit of a slow start, only putting up 3 points in the first half against the Ravens last week, and being slow to start against the I wanted to say Chargers just because of Phillip Rivers. My mind, because of the Colts. My old stupid brain.
It's the San Diego Colts.
Yeah,
the San Diego Colts is who we were playing
from Baltimore. I guess the question is, are the Bills going to be able to start hot? I think that's kind of what GM was alluding to is, are the Bills going to be able to kind of start hot? Because against the Kansas City Chiefs team like this, you got to start hot and you got to stay hot the entire time. So will the Buffalo Bills, do you think, be able to kind of overcome what's been hanging them up the last couple of weeks?
I don't know, and I don't know that we need to. Yeah. I think one of the things that we learned last year in that playoff game that you guys attended at the keg stand is Josh Allen obviously has improved quite a bit since then. He's grown up a ton since then, but we don't want to put him in a situation where his instincts overtake his mind. We don't want him jittery. We don't want him jumpy. So I think that a slow start might not be the worst thing for him. I think the last 2 games, he's had that slower start, but it also helped him settle into the game. So that way he can, just see the field, process things. And I don't know that with the way our defense is playing, if Kansas City is a team we have to start and stay hot against. I think there's some opportunities there to shut them down. And I think that what we've seen from teams like the Falcons, like the first meeting with the Raiders, is if teams can take away the deep ball, the Chiefs haven't had a ton of success just slowly, methodically marching down the field. You get them a little behind schedule. You take away that opportunity to go over the top with Cheetah, and they're not that same Chiefs team. So I think there's an opportunity there with our defense to really say, hey, I'm not saying that it's going to be 17-10 or anything like that, but I don't know that, it's going to be 40 plus each side. I think there's an opportunity for us to ease into this game if our defense continues to play the way that they're supposed to, because you look especially at these last 2 games, look at the playoffs, we'll look at the playoff games. We've been outgained, out time of possession, out first downed. We've, statistically been quote unquote dominated, but I'm worried about the scoreboard. And I believe, if I remember correctly, in both of those games, at the end of the game, we had more points than our opponent had. And so I do think there's an opportunity there for us to come into this game and say, we are going to play Buffalo Bills football on offense and on defense. And we need you guys to try to keep up on both sides. And I have concerns for the Chiefs on that.
Yeah, it is funny that you'd mentioned that because we talked about that in our recap episode, is how it's the time of the year where all of a sudden wins don't necessarily have to be pretty. They just have to be wins, and that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw what this team did as far as keeping Lamar in the pocket last weekend, able to sort of spy him or whatever it may be to make him stay in the pocket and not get outside. Now Lamar is a bit of a different runner than Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is always looking downfield, but some of his biggest and best plays come on when he's able to get out of that pocket and create space and opportunity. If you can spy him, keep him in the pocket the way you did Lamar, do you think that helps? Obviously helps your opportunities, but when you also see Mahomes be able to chuck it downfield, he does a lot of that from the pocket. What is the best way to defend Patrick Mahomes, assuming he is starting, assuming he is healthy?
I think if I knew the best way to defend Patrick Mahomes, I would be making a whole lot more money than I do.
You wouldn't be talking to us, that's for
sure. I would still talk to you.
Oh, I appreciate
that. But no, I think keeping him in the pocket, taking away the opportunity. I don't know that necessarily needs to be a spy situation. I think that might be something that we see the Buffalo front do with different stunts and things like that across the offensive line, because I think that they're most likely going to be some similar aspects to this game plan as there were back in Week 6, where we just say, okay, we aren't going to let you beat us deep. So we will keep it in front of us. You beat us there. And with a defense that's fully healthy and playing at the level they're at, I think that would scare just about anyone. And so I think that there's an opportunity there to not necessarily keep a spy, but just keep eyes in the background that take away some of those opportunities for not necessarily just for him to get out of the pocket, but for him to really get downfield. I don't think there'll be a lot of 3rd and 13 12.5-yard runs from him or Chad Henne.
You talk about the best way to defend Mahomes. I think a lot of people would say the best way to defend him is to keep him on the bench. You mentioned that the Bills in both of their games had been out time of possession, out yardage gained, and it still ended up with more points. And that's how you win games, if I remember correctly. But are you concerned about the run game for your Buffalo Bills? I know that it's a good way to eat up some clock, but the total run game for last week was 32 yards. So
yeah, 32 yards on 16 carries.
Yeah, how do you feel about that run game going forward?
I'm concerned about it. I know that we can run on people when we want to. I just don't know how often it's going to be called. You look at some of the runs we had last week. I mean, I think at one point Devin Singletary had back-to-back 8-9 yard runs. So there was an opportunity there. I think that it just wasn't part of the game plan. And I think that has been somewhat strategic by Brian Daboll and Sean McDermott to keep that away. So that way people don't necessarily know when we're going to run. But the other side of it is I don't know that we really need to a ton. Let's look back to the Pittsburgh game when we beat them on that Sunday night game. We got the ball. We were up by 10 or 11, 10, I believe it was. And we got the ball with 7.5 minutes left in the game. We never gave them back the ball. And we called more passes than runs on that drive. But we dinked and dunked and nickeled and dimed them to death on defense. Because when you look at what Stephon Diggs can do to get separation, Cole Beasley in the slot, guys like Gabriel Davis with his size going up high, even close to the line of scrimmage, we have guys who can hurt you that close to the line of scrimmage and that early on in the down that we don't necessarily need to run. There's an opportunity to, we see an opening. Josh sees something in the defense, thinks he's going to be able to give Devin Singletary or TJ Yeldon or even Antonio Williams a lane. Heck yeah, he's going to switch to that and he's going to call it. But I don't know that we need to. That's the thing I keep hearing, and this isn't a knock on you guys, don't get me wrong, but I keep hearing from, different people and different media pundits and everything like, oh, well, the Bills can't do this, the Bills can't do that. We just haven't schemed for that. We have had one of the highest rates of play action. We ran 182 play action passes this year, and we had great success with it. So even if the run game isn't going, does it matter if the non-existent run game can still set up the passing game? I think there's some opportunities there to take advantage of a sometimes very opportunistic Chiefs defense that gets very excited. You look at Honey Badger, and he plays absolute lights out. Deserves every award and accolade he ever gets. But I think there's some opportunities even there to take away some of that downhill momentum that he brings into the game, and to keep them a bit more honest, even if the running game isn't really working. So am I concerned about the running game? Yeah. Do I think it's going to be the game decider? Every time I've thought that, this team's proved me wrong. So I think I'm going to quit taking the bait.
There you go. Now, do I have to do this part, Casey, or are you going to also? Okay, he doesn't want to talk to you at all, I see. Well, Matt, you've done this before, never in this large of a magnitude.
Nice when I don't have to do all the heavy lifting.
But it is. You do the intros and the outros with these guys, and you line up the interviews too. I guess
you've done zero lifting.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, guys. It's okay. I have lived a lot of my life in absolute petrified fear, so I know what he's going through.
Oh. All right, Matt. That time has come. Like I said, you've done it before, never on this grand of a stage. But we need your prediction. Who loses, and what do you see the final score being?
Is it okay if I give you two?
Sure.
One with Patrick Mahomes playing, one with Chad Henne.
That's fair.
That's fair.
I think I appreciate that. If Patrick Mahomes plays, I think it will be something along the lines of 35-31 Bills. I think their defense is just better, and I think that's going to show. I think their offense can keep up with the Chiefs, but I don't think the Chiefs will be able to have the same level of prolificness against the Bills defense. And if Chad Henne plays, I'm going to give the same amount to the Bills because I think that defense is good. So I'll give 35-14 if Chad Henne plays.
Oh, no love for Chad Henne.
None. If I knew who he was before last week, there might have been some love.
The man's been to four straight AFC championship games. Chad Henne.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Used to be a rival with the Jets.
He doesn't want to talk.
I'm glad you can hang your hat on that.
That's all
if
I got.
If you want any tips on off-season conditioning for your liver, as a Bills fan, I can give you a lot of that. We start usually pretty early.
Always down with that.
Yeah, might need a little bit of that off-season, end-season, spring, summer, winter, fall.
Training camp.
Yeah, all of it. Anyways, Matt, I can't speak for everyone at the table, but if your team wins, we'll talk to you next week. I still don't think, Casey, if your team wins.
I'm giving him shit.
Yeah, I know Casey's messing around. In 2 weeks,
Matt,
yeah.
if it's not any other team, I'm happy that the Bills are here. You know that.
Hey,
of all
You're
the
just
teams,
trying to cash in on that bet.
God damn. I did, but I bet him like 4 weeks ago. I did bet the Bills to win the AFC
It wasn't
and
a
to win the
straight,
Super Bowl 4 weeks
It
ago.
wasn't a straight jinx bet, but
it's down the line.
yeah, down the line.
That's not the bet I laid against the Titans.
It was a
last year.
futures jinx bet.
But like he said, go ahead.
I put $50 on the Bills to win the AFC as well, but that's because I believe that they would. I wasn't just trying to make myself feel better. When
I did
my
it because
team
I believed
eventually
they would
loses to
too.
them.
I sincerely did
He
believe
just
at
didn't
that time
think that
they
it would get to this matchup, though.
Yeah, this is true.
That the Ravens would take care of the Chiefs at some point in there.
I really kind of did think the Ravens were going to beat the Chiefs.
That would be a good matchup.
This fucking guy. All right, Matt. I sincerely hope that we're not talking to you next week, or I guess not next week, but before the big game. But if we are, that's what it is, and we look forward to talking to you whenever that next time happens to be.
All right, talk to you next week.
Appreciate you, Matt. All right, so now I get the palate cleanser. We're off of the Bills talk. Bringing Frenchie back on. Frenchie, I have to ask you before we dive too deep into anything. Were you getting like 2013 Colts game vibes when Mahomes left the game? Because I was terrified.
Definitely got that feeling, especially considering that Baker did catch a pass from himself. So I also got some Tennessee Titans vibes as well.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the week, and man, I I wasn't feeling too good about it. But here we are. Chiefs pull it out after, some stuff. The ballsy play call. I don't know.
I would have punted. I don't have that set.
Oh, you punt, but I mean, you do, but I guess. But
fourth and short. You
maybe try to draw them off.
You try and draw
I don't
off.
know.
If it doesn't work, then you punt. You trust your defense that just played lights out the series before that. But yeah, a big ballsy, gutsy move from a guy that has the weirdest mask in all of football.
Mm. Well, if you go with anything that Patrick Mahomes tweeted after the game, anything is possible.
Anything is possible. And I remember from previous lives talking to a certain Mitch Holtis week in and week out about a guy like Chad Henne, because this was during Mahomes' injuries last year, and Henne was the guy that the team really thinks they could plug and play and be productive and get them where they need to go. Comes out there, looked pretty good to start. They didn't really score any points on that, but then he comes down and they're in a position where they can score some points, and he throws that terrible interception. And then at that point where you're sort of worried, where you're wondering, okay, we need Mahomes now. But then Henne came out and 100% flipped the script, I think, on the way he played throughout that game and sort of sealed the deal with that scramble on 3rd and 15 that set them up for the short yardage to go ahead and go for it. If he doesn't make that 15 yards, they don't come out with that play. So was it sort of night and day as far as your feelings on Chad Henne being in that football game at that point?
Honestly, the only negative moment I saw was that interception. Outside of that, I thought he played absolutely fantastic. From that first pass, throwing the fade route to Tyreek Hill, and Hill somehow keeping that ball off the ground. It just kind of felt like, Henne was going to do enough to keep them, not just in the game, but keep them ahead and give them the shot that they needed to win that football game. And, Chad Henne, he's a baller. He's been doing it in the league as a backup for 13 years now. He's a former starter. He's never a guy that you're going to, hand the keys to the franchise over. He's never been that guy. But he's almost like a Ryan Fitzpatrick, that he can come in and play when you need it. He is a quality veteran backup.
Yeah, he's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And he did. He looked very well. Here was a game where I was watching Cleveland sort of hang in and getting to a point where they're chipping away while doing that. Then Mahomes goes down and Chad Henne comes in. I'm like, okay, this is what Cleveland needed to sort of take the jump here. They needed the backup quarterback to come in and, not play as well. And then Henne steps in, and he was moving the football down the field. And I went, okay, they're going to have to try just as hard, if not harder now, knowing, that Henne's in there and he's playing the way that he is, and he's able to keep Kansas City in the driver's seat throughout this football game.
I think that the run by Henne to, not just the ballsy play of taking off and running with it and putting them in that short yardage situation, it's a play that, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl again, or even if, they somehow get beat this weekend, 5-10 years, that's going to be one of those plays that I don't think a lot of people talk about or remember, because it wasn't in the conference championship. It wasn't in the Super Bowl. It was just a ballsy play that put them in position. But, man, Chad Henne's going to have a great story to tell to his kids, grandkids, and friends for the rest of his life, that, if they win the Super Bowl this year, they would not have gotten there without Chad Henne putting them in the position that he did.
Yeah, you talk about the best position in football being the backup quarterback. You're a guy that still gets the ring, whether or not you attribute or not. He definitely attributed to this team's run throughout this season. As we shift gears and look forward to next weekend, Frenchie, I want to get your first thoughts on the Mahomes injury, and not just the head, neck, neurological. Maybe it's not a concussion, maybe it is. Also dealing with that toe injury, sort of limping around on the field. I mean, obviously the worry has to be there, but what is your gut telling you as far as what we will see out of Patrick Mahomes if he plays this weekend?
Well, I don't know if it's really an if. I think Mahomes will play. From what everything's been saying, it looks like he's expected to practice tomorrow. So as long as he's good to go, I don't think you're going to see any major ill effects from, I honestly don't think if he wasn't put in concussion protocol on Sunday, I really think he comes back into that game. If this game had taken place 5-10 years ago, I have no doubt that Patrick Mahomes would have been back in the lineup.
Just ask Jim McMahon. He totally would have been out there.
Yeah, but Jim McMahon would have been walking to the wrong sideline is the problem.
That is true.
Yeah. I really don't think we're going to see any ill effects. It looks, after the whole almost, fainting thing, which was, I really think was from a tweaked nerve, the way they've talked about it. And there's like, well, he looked like he was going to pass out. Yes, that's what happens when you tweak a nerve in your spine. That's how your brain sends messages through the body, is through the nerve. So yes, if a nerve gets tweaked, it can have a bad effect. But from going through everything, what the team has been saying, even looking at what his fiance has been posting on Twitter, she seems to think that everything should be fine. And I really think this team will be good to go, and that Patrick Mahomes will be under center on Sunday. And if he's not, it's going to be a very rough game against a really, really good Bills team.
I think I'm with you there. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be back, no matter what it is. He's young enough.
We want to see that.
Yeah, he's young enough where you don't really have long-term injuries.
If Kansas City is to lose this football game, it's you don't want it to be because Patrick Mahomes isn't out on that football field. No one wants to see that be the end of this season for the Kansas City Chiefs. We want Patrick Mahomes out there on that field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he will be. The big question for me is we saw a kind of not last minute, but it was pretty close to kickoff. They ruled CEH out of the game. Last time they played Buffalo, CEH had a monster game, 161 yards on the ground. How do we feel about Clyde the Glide coming back for this game? Do you think that's going to be possible? And if so,
wasn't that already Clyde the Glide?
Is he going to be able to play well? Everyone named Clyde is going to be called Clyde the Glide.
I hate that nickname for him so much. That's a nickname for Clyde the Glide Drexler.
I understand this. And anyone named Clyde is going to be called Clyde the Glide. It just happens.
Okay, but there are better ones. When you can go with Clydesdale, you can go with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I think there are so many better nicknames than Clyde the Glide for him.
I do like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
It's a little wordy. It's not a great nickname. That's a fantasy football team
won a
name.
fantasy championship with that name.
I'll give you Clydro. I think that's his name on Twitter. So like that's about as far as I'm getting off of Clyde the Glide. But is he going to be able to glide his way all over this Buffalo team?
God damn it, Ryan.
I don't know. I think Clyde is going to be a last-second call this week. If he gets a couple of full practices in, I think he'll be good to go. Even if he's limited in practice, they just want to hold him back a little bit. I really think it'll come down to how he's feeling on the field and what happens there. I'm also a little worried about Sammy Watkins, but, to have guys like Mecole Hardman and Byron Pringle with how they stepped up this past week, it really helps. A lot of people want to talk about DeMarcus Robinson. They brought him back to be that, just in case guy if something happened to Hill or Hardman as well. You expect Watkins going to miss at least a couple games each season. But, man, I've been impressed with the play of Byron Pringle this year and even last season. The touchdown catch against the Colts last season was such a big play for him. I'm really excited to see him continue to grow in this offense. So if Watkins can't go, I think they're set there. With how Gerald Williams played on Sunday, I am a little bit more confident now. If CEH can't go, if they can have Gerald Williams and Le'Veon Bell, maybe even a little Darwin Thompson come into play, they've got a good running back core that they can ride a little bit through this injury.
Yeah, Darrell Williams did look pretty good stepping up in this game, and I wanted to ask you about that because at the moment between the three of us in our group chat, when CEH was ruled out, I was like, oh, it's fine. You've seen Lev Bell look pretty good towards the end of the season filling in. Lev Bell did not look particularly great in this matchup this last weekend. So is there any thought, like you mentioned Darrell Williams, can Lev Bell sort of get some of that late season momentum back coming into this game if all of a sudden he's the number one, and Andy will never commit to a number one, but if he is the RB1 coming into this weekend?
I think that with the way Darrell Williams played last week, he'll be the first guy to get a crack at that Bills front seven. I think one of the big things is that the Chiefs needed, with how good that front seven can be for Cleveland especially, up front, they needed someone who was going to attack off a handoff, not someone who's going to wait back, because their offensive line's still dealing with, they're still without Mitchell Schwartz. And that, he's an all-pro right tackle, big loss there. And to not have your offensive line at full strength. I think they needed someone with a little bit more attacking power and speed right off the handoff. Plus, he brings that big body that was going to be able to wear down that defense a little bit in the early goings of the game. I think it's a little bit of the same thing with when you look at what guys like Ed Oliver bring to the table for Buffalo. But I think we might see a little bit more of Le'Veon in this one because, especially if Mahomes is not 100%, that running game has to, they've got to see what different guys are going to bring against that and get the running game working a little bit more effectively and keep Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs on the other sideline.
Yeah, it's going to be important to kind of manage the game. The run game isn't necessarily a huge part of the Chiefs game, but they use it enough where not being able to get either guy going, Lev or Williams going, could be a big issue for them because that frees up a little bit of other stuff. And I thought that Williams looked really, really good. I'm not concerned personally about the Le'Veon Bell situation. It's just you brought him in. It's not working out, whatever, He's around, cool. But I think Williams looked really good. And either way, whoever gets the nod, I think is going to end up fine. Just looking here at some of the stats from the last time that they played, and it was only it was a good game for most quarterbacks. It was a so-so game for Mahomes with only 225, but a definite commitment to the run. Do you think that last meeting back in October, that run game was predicated on the fact that there was weather or that it was an off week or with the game getting juggled around, or do you think that's the blueprint for beating Buffalo?
Well, Buffalo, for one, has a very strong pass defense. Josh Norman isn't what he used to be, but in Tre'Davious White, you've got arguably the best corner in the league. You've got an all-pro safety in Micah Hyde. Those guys make life hell on opposing quarterbacks. And, you've got kind of a young front seven a little bit. You've got some big pieces in there, but, there's been some, changing out of the guard a little bit in the front seven for Buffalo the last couple of years. And I think the Chiefs wanted to kind of attack that with some of the, offensive linemen they had in place at that point. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but Kelechi Olasumali was still healthy at that point to that game.
I believe so, yeah. Casey's nodding his head.
Yeah,
so.
Sorry, yes, that's correct.
So on your left line, you've got two Pro Bowlers in Osimile and Eric Fisher. That's going to be able to push around some of these young guys for Buffalo. Now, you're without Mitchell Schwartz. You're starting Mike Reimers at right tackle, who I think has filled in admirably, but he's not the best in trying to attack via the run. He's a better pass protector, in my opinion, than he is as a, push the middle of the pack at guard or at tackle. Austin Ryder, better pass protector than run blocker. And then I think Ed Oliver's got to be a big player for Buffalo coming into this one. He showed a lot of promise last year as a rookie, and if he can have a big game, it'll make life hell on the Chiefs run attack.
And then I got to ask the last thing here before we kind of, force you to think about it, but any concern about the kicking game here? We saw a couple of misses by Butker.
As long as it's not like 32 yards, he's fine.
We saw some weird stuff there. Any concerns there about that?
Not really. I think kickers go through a funk. It's been a weird year, I think, across the league. I mean, look what happened with Gostkowski in Tennessee. Goes from being one of the most productive kickers of all time to having one of the worst seasons that a starting kicker's had in the last decade, but still was able to knock in any clutch kick from beyond 40 yards. I think this year's just been kind of weird for kickers in the NFL. I don't know what it is. Butker still has ice in his veins, and I think if it comes down to it, they need a big kick from him late in the game. He'll be able to knock it through no matter what.
That's the answer I expected.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not worried about Harrison Butker. I instantly threw out the hairy butt.
Missing a couple
when he
of
missed
kicks
it,
like
but,
that.
But they were
just
both
odd.
from the same distance, which was
32,
weird.
33.
So keep him either inside that or outside that, and you're golden.
Yeah.
Okay, so get my correct spreadsheet open here. You know how this works, and I sincerely hope that this goes the right way. Give me a final score. Give me a prediction. How do you see this one shaking out on Sunday night?
So I'm moving forward with the belief that Patrick Mahomes will be under center come Sunday evening, because if not, I really am worried about the Chiefs coming into this game, especially how hungry Buffalo is and how young and talented they are. But the problem, they're still very young, and they beat up on two teams that are very flawed and almost let a, ancient Phillip Rivers lead a comeback against them in the first round of the playoffs. I really think Kansas City wins this game. I think it'll be a close one. I think you're looking maybe 30-23 as a final score. I think it's going to be a little bit more high-flying, but the Chiefs are going to come out on top. They've got a very good pass defense as long as Rashad Breeland is good to go. But, between him, L'Jarius Sneed looked fantastic in his first playoff game. And
Very excited for Sneed's future.
They've found great ways to use him in the last couple of games. Having him back is huge. So I think they're not going to shut Stephon Diggs down by any means, but I think they're going to make life a little bit harder for him. And I just don't think the Bills have the run game, even with Moss and Singletary in the backfield. I don't think they've got a good enough run game to punish the Chiefs up front like a team like Baltimore or even like what we saw from Cleveland in the second half on Sunday.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I think the run game with a lot of these teams is what scares me, and that's not where we're sitting here. So I would agree with that with you there. So, all right, Frenchie, I sincerely hope that we are talking to you prior to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, same here.
All right, man, we appreciate it. Thanks for the time. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, sounds good. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Frenchie.
All right, there you have it. That's both games. We did them. Did them all.
It's an exciting weekend, just Sunday of football.
Now don't go losing no files.
Exciting.
Don't go.
I'd say one time, but it wasn't one time.
A couple times.
Yeah. I sincerely, I have no fucking idea how that happened last week.
No one ever does. But
I appreciate. I shout out to Fez.
We
again
never talked to Fez last week
for saving my ass and recording a second time.
I think this is a good championship Sunday of football. Both games are on Sunday. Two rematches. Right?
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit more on Friday,
Which
but yes.
is interesting, and this one especially because that game was so wonky before it was moved and ended up playing on Monday at 4 o'clock.
They were both of them so early in the season, too.
Yeah, and, both all the fans we've talked to said that was so long ago that it doesn't really matter, but I bet it matters.
It matters to the players.
It matters to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some wild things happen because these teams had played earlier in the year.
All right, so if you missed our preview on the NFC Championship game, that Packers-Bucks game, go back and find it. It's out there, YouTube, Facebook videos. Check our Twitter feed. There's a link to it there. Go back and check that one out. We talked to Joey. We talked to Luke.
Two great fans.
Yeah, we do have some really good fans here. We appreciate all of the time everyone's given us. Come back, check us out on Friday on the actual podcast feed. We are going to, I'd say maybe it'll be a shorter episode. Who knows? We only got 2 games to preview.
When does that ever stop?
Not a whole lot else to do. So we'll see how that shakes out. But until Friday, for these 2 fuck sticks, for 2 great fans, Matt, I love you. Just hope your team loses.
Just didn't want to talk to you this week.
Just didn't want to talk to you this week.
Nothing personal, Matt.
This has been Just Another Football Show.
Bye.
See ya.
Act one.